What is going on, guys? It is your Romada of the IWC Gamers Goon here today with your AEW Dynamite September 22nd review. This show took place in Arthur Ashe Stadium, the first time that stadium has been used for a professional wrestling event. Obviously, it's in New York, big stadium. The biggest show the AEW's hosted yet. I believe it held around 20,000 people. For tonight's show. And before I even get through anything, a big shout out to my boy Indigo Uchiha. He was on the channel. He was on the channel, I believe, at Money in the Bank. And if you haven't already, I also did All Out preview and predictions over on Joseph Conlon's Big Fight Field channel, and Indigo Uchiha was over there as well, giving his expert analysis to what we love here on the IWC, and that is obviously professional wrestling. Not sports entertainment, professional wrestling. And that is exactly what we were given tonight with AEW Dynamite. They gave us one hell of a show. My God, Tony Khan, he said, boom, he hit it out of the park. Tony Khan, props to you. Like I've been saying it. The guy next to me at All Out said it. No, it wasn't All Out. The guy next to me at Rampage, which was the Rampage that was in Chicago that CM Punk came back and returned. The guy next to me said, "Oh, I love that little dork." Tony Khan, I love that man. He is the best when it comes to booking a show in 2021. Tony Khan out here running circles around the other people. But we started off AEW. Believe it or not, we started off hot, man. We started off hot. I thought this might main event the show. But obviously, they said, you know what? We do have a title being defended on the show. Let's make our titles look important. And if we're going to have the women have a title defense, let's main event the women. Let's give Britt Baker and Ruby Soho that moment there in Arthur Ashe. The top match to end the show on Wednesday. I believe they're filming Rampage, so the crowd is not going home just yet. However, it's going to end the Dynamite show. So they started off with Kenny Omega and Bryan Danielson. This was one of the best TV matches I think I've seen. Not just this year, but best TV matches in general. This, in my opinion, tops what the street fight between the Best Friends and Proud and Powerful Santana and Ortiz did. I love this. I got home from the gym. I was playing some basketball, came home, and got some milk, sat down, turned on TNT, sat down, and we're starting it off hot. We get this big match. I'm looking on Twitter. I see that Ruby Soho is going to be main event with Britt Baker. And then I'm sitting here through this match, and I'm seeing them go back and forth. I'm seeing Bryan out here hitting the kicks, formerly the yes kicks. I see Kenny out here hitting snapdragons. Mind you, there was a snapdragon that was on the ramp. And obviously every time with Bryan, you're going to get a little bit of one of those little, in the back of your mind, you get a little bit scared knowing Bryan's history with injuries. But that ramp, man, it looked beautiful. It was LED lights. It looked absolutely beautiful. In general, Arthur Ashe Stadium looked beautiful. It was a beautiful stadium, a phenomenal setup for a wrestling venue. And Kenny Omega and Bryan Danielson came out there and did exactly what you would expect Kenny Omega and Bryan Danielson to do. They came out and gave you the best TV match of the year. Now, I did have a couple people say that this might have been the best match of the year, and I don't want to take anything away from this because this was a phenomenal match. This match was absolutely phenomenal. But in my opinion, I'm still going to take the Walter match where he lost Ilya Dragunov over at TakeOver on SummerSlam weekend. I loved that match. As you guys know, I'm a big Walter fan. Walter, I'll call them both. I don't really care. Ilya Dragunov, somebody that I loved over in NXT UK when he was back the first time with Walter. So they killed it in my opinion. And Kenny and Bryan, they came out there. They did a phenomenal job. They had the best TV match of the year. And it's up there with match of the year in my opinion. It's not the match of the year, but it was up there. and it competed with it. And instead of having a victor here, instead of having, because I said it going in, it's either going to go to a draw or you're going to have Bryan Danielson win. And Bryan Danielson winning doesn't make much sense unless Bryan Danielson is beating Kenny Omega for the championship. And this match had no championship on the line, so I'm sitting here, I'm like, well, that makes no, because Bryan's not going to lose. Bryan's not going to lose. So I'm just sitting there, I'm like, this has to go the distance. It has to go the distance, and that's exactly what happened. It went the distance. Kenny Omega, Bryan Danielson, they will have a second match. I believe it's probably going to be set up towards Full Gear, which I believe is their next pay-per-view. So that is something to look forward to going forward. It is going to be yet another banker of a match that they're going to put on for us. But Bryan Danielson and Kenny Omega, this is just the beginning of what we are going to see between these two men. And my God, a 30-minute classic was absolutely the perfect jump start to a feud between these guys. Then we had CM Punk come down. CM Punk comes out. He's like, I'm so glad I don't have to wrestle because how can you follow what they just did? And I'm going to be honest, Arthur Ashe, they did not react to that. They just sat there chanting CM Punk. They didn't show the love to the match beforehand. I was hoping they gave it cheers or something like that. But they were still chanting for CM Punk. I mean, rightfully so. CM Punk, they haven't seen CM Punk alive, most of them, unless they've traveled to the Chicago shows or traveled to one of the shows already, like Cleveland. Or not Cleveland, Cincinnati, unless they've traveled to one of those shows, this is probably the first time they're seeing CM Punk live, either in their lifetime or since he left the WWE. So you got to realize that obviously they're going to love CM Punk. Everywhere he goes, CM Punk is going to be the top guy that people want to see. CM Punk and Bryan Danielson are going to be the two top guys in AEW from this point forward. Yes, you have Adam Cole there, but I mean, there's a better chance that people have seen Adam Cole. I mean, there's a solid chance that people have seen Bryan Danielson, Daniel Bryan, formerly known as. But those are two guys that absolutely changed the business, if you ask me. CM Punk is a person that got a lot of people into wrestling and kept them involved. CM Punk is one of the reasons why I became a wrestling fan. Obviously, I became a wrestling fan when I was about 5, so that was like 2007. And it wasn't really until like 2011 where I started really becoming a fan, and obviously that's CM Punk. CM Punk's around, and he was there till 2014. CM Punk was one of those guys you grew up watching, going up against Cena. Obviously, I was a big Cena fan growing up, and CM Punk is a guy that I respected, much like The Undertaker, because I was a big Shawn Michaels guy. But CM Punk, I absolutely love him. Still get chills every single time this man steps his foot out into the arena. He comes out, he cuts a promo. He says he wants to be mad. He wants to be mad because of what Hobbs and company, the Team Taz, did to him. He wants to be mad because they tricked him. But every time he steps out there and we cheer, he can't help but to forget all of his anger. He can't help because he's no longer mad, because this is where he wants to be. And when he's out there, he doesn't feel angry anymore. He just wants to live it up in the moment. And he says, next week, oh no, not next week, next Friday, so obviously this upcoming Friday on Rampage, we are going to be seeing Hobbs and Punk. He said, listen, I'm not here to do anything except tuck you in. I'm here to put Will Hobbs, Powerhouse Hobbs, to sleep. Insinuating there's going to be a go to sleep to end Powerhouse Hobbs' little reign of terror on CM Punk. Now, where do they go from here? Do they give him Ricky Starks? Do they give him Hook? Do they give him Taz himself? I don't know. But Powerhouse Hobbs and Punk is going to be a good match. Punk's going to hopefully go over, and it should be a pretty fun thing. It's going to be a big moment for Hobbs. It's going to be the biggest moment of Hobbs' career so far, just like Darby Allin's biggest moment was the CM Punk match. It's going to be the same thing here. This is the biggest match Powerhouse Hobbs has been in. Now, it's not the biggest match Punk has been in. In my opinion, the biggest match Punk's been in is that Darby Allin match. It's do you still have it? Are you who you say you are? Are you still the best in the world? Are you really the guy we remember you as, or are we just, over time, are we starting to think things that aren't true about you? And he came out there and he showed you CM Punk is still one of the best in the world with that match. Now, granted, Darby Allin had a hell of a performance, did a phenomenal job putting Punk over, but it was a phenomenal match at the end of the day. This is a huge spot for Powerhouse Hobbs. Hopefully, it goes well for him. Then we get into MJF going up against Bryan Pillman Jr., a feud that I believe a lot of people didn't know they wanted. There's, if you're talking about MJF feuds that you want to see, you'd probably listen. Maybe the Jungle Boy one. I mean, obviously we've seen Jungle Boy and MJF a little bit. Maybe you want to see, a Bryan. Maybe you want to see a Punk. Maybe you want to see something like that. Maybe a Hangman when he returns. But Pillman's done a phenomenal job getting over as a babyface. Pillman Jr. has done a phenomenal job. Pillman Jr., he's a phenomenal wrestler. Don't get me wrong. But he's a guy that initially I really wouldn't have thought would be a fan favorite. He is a guy that really, in my opinion, never had the it factor. But MJF has done a phenomenal job making Pillman feel like he is something special. And going into this match, I was very excited for Pillman. Obviously, MJF does beat Bryan Pillman Jr. here. And that's unfortunate. It's unfortunate. That's just that was always going to happen. But Pillman Jr., he's a little bit of a name now. And before that, he was one of those dark stars, one of those dark people that he would just stick around on AEW Dark, and every now and then the Varsity Blondes would get a TV match. And now people legitimately are like, well, wait a minute, who's this Pillman guy? People like Pillman now. So shout out to Bryan Pillman Jr. He's getting over a little bit, one step at a time. Where do we go from MJF and Pillman? I don't know. But I do know what happened next, because we had Malachi Black going up against Cody Rhodes, and my God, I almost had a heart attack. And that was when Brandy Rhodes came out. Yes, I know that some of you might have had a heart attack for a different reason. Maybe you found her a little bit too attractive tonight. However, I almost had a heart attack because I thought Cody was going to win. Soon as Brandy Rhodes stepped out. Now, don't get me wrong. I love Brandy. I love Cody. But I've about had my fill with Cody. And it just really felt the way that Brandy came back tonight in this match against Malachi would insinuate that Malachi was going to lose. Because this is Cody's big match back. Malachi's done his thing running through the Nightmare Factory. He's done his thing just running through everybody that Cody's had as a part of his group, a part of his group, yeah. And then you see the wife that has been away because they had a kid together come back with Cody. I'm sitting here, I'm like, oh God, here we go. Cody's going to win, and it's going to be a victory for his wife. It's going to be a victory for Brandy and a victory for their child. I can see it now. It's going to happen. And thank Lord it did not, because Malachi could not afford to lose here. I will still stand on my hill that Anthony Ogogo should have never lost to Cody. Obviously, Ogogo hasn't done anything. And he hasn't even been around, so maybe they did make the right call, but I will still stand on my hill that Anthony Ogogo should have beat Cody. That could have made a new star out of Anthony Ogogo. And Malachi Black, granted, it does leave another match open, which might be a full gear match, because Cody kind of got a little bit distracted, a little bit. Obviously, Arn Anderson being around ring, tripped, whatever. He's looking over there. The referees turned around at one point, and Malachi uses the spit. He has the black mist spit, and he spits it in Cody's eyes, gets a roll-up pin. The door is left open for another match between Malachi and Cody. Hopefully it is not the one that Cody gets one back on Malachi. However, I can see it happening, and I'm hoping it doesn't happen. But let's hope Malachi doesn't even have to do that again. Hopefully we just move on to something bigger and better for Malachi Black, because let's be honest, every time you are going up against Cody, it is a very scary situation if you are a newbie, because more likely than not, he's going to get a win. I mean, just look at what happened when you had Shawn Spears, who I think should have probably won against Cody. There's just been a lot of Anthony Ogogo, Darby Allin. There's a lot of guys that probably should have beat Cody, and he just didn't lose to him. So we'll see. We'll see, but hopefully Malachi Black moves on to bigger and better things. Speaking about bigger and better things, we had a phenomenal tag team match between FTR and Darby Allin and Sting. This match was amazing. Sting, he is, I believe, 63 years old or something of that nature. He's over 60, and this man is still looking good as ever before. I would say he looked better now than he did when we last seen him. When he was in the promotion there at WrestleMania, when he was in Impact, I would say he looks better now. Because this man's still got it. He's still got it, believe it or not. Might be 60-something years old, but he's still got it. Darby Allin, phenomenal. But there was a chair spot here. I believe Dax Harwood was the one. He set up a chair and acted like he was out of it still, waiting for the Stinger Splash. And Sting goes for the Stinger Splash. Dax moves. Sting stops himself. And Dax goes for a spear. Sting sidesteps it. Dax hits it. And then later on, Sting makes Dax tap out. So FTR, they lost. I don't know why FTR is losing. I don't know what you do with FTR. I sincerely don't know what you do with FTR because I don't think Darby and Sting are in a position where they're going to end up being contenders for the Tag Team Championships. I might be wrong in that. But we'll see. We'll see what goes on. And then we get into the main event. We had Britt Baker, DMD, going against Ruby Soho. Destination unknown. Ruby Soho. Two of my favorites right now in AEW, Ruby Soho and Dr. Britt Baker, DMD, going out there and doing their thing in the main event for the Women's Championship. I got scared a little bit because I had somebody tell me that there was a rumor that somebody was backstage, and by somebody, I'm just going to say Tully's kid. And I almost had a heart attack because there was about 2 minutes left when Britt Baker got her victory over Ruby Soho, because Jamie Hayter did the thing where she pulled Ruby's head down on the ropes when the ref wasn't looking, and Britt Baker was able to enter the lockjaw to win. And I thought for a second, maybe we're going to see Tully's daughter walk down, and that derails all momentum AEW has built up to this point. Thankfully, that did not happen. Maybe she is on Rampage. I don't know. Hopefully, that is not true. Hopefully, she is just there because she is Tully's daughter. That's all I gotta say on that situation. That is a whole different video for a whole different time, and I'm not really trying to get into that right now. But anyways, thank y'all for watching my AEW Dynamite review. Like I said, big shout out to my boy Indigo Uchiha, who actually is still probably at Arthur Ashe Stadium, as Rampage should be going on right now. Obviously, if you haven't already, make sure you go follow me on Twitter, GamersGoonYT, and then the Instagram at thegoongameryt. Make sure you stick around. Extreme Rules video will be out. We have the NFL content. There will be a predictions video out. And obviously Extreme Rules this weekend. So we do have that to look forward to. And I will announce this now, because I already kind of have it scheduled. I have it scheduled. Now, hold on, I need to get the specific day, because I don't remember the day. Yeah. So October 1st and October 4th is the WWE Draft, which means sometime within next week, I believe. Let me check my calendar. Yeah. So it starts next Friday. So sometime between today and next Thursday, the 30th, I will be having a video posted, and I will actually be joined for the first time on my channel with my friend and person that I have been doing podcast with already over there on his Spotify. There's a group of 4 of us sitting there, and that is Cameron Johnson. He will be welcomed onto the channel, and we're going to be doing kind of like a mock draft type of thing. Hopefully we get a little bit more information on how the draft is going to be operating. Maybe it's going to be a complete reset, or maybe it's just going to be a superstar shakeup. I'm not sure. But I plan on having Cameron Johnson on the channel for that. So if you haven't already, make sure you go follow Cameron Johnson as well. And obviously, stay tuned for the channel for more information regarding that. But anyways, I've been your role model of the IWC, and I will be seeing you guys later this week.